Well, Tennessee pulls out a 34-27 overtime victory here at Acrisure Stadium on this Saturday night in what I've been calling a statement win for Josh Heupel and the Tennessee football team here in Week 2 to begin the 2022 season. It's your mini podcast here at Volquest.com. I'm Eric Cain alongside Austin Price. And Austin, I'm not sure if this football team would have been mature enough to win a football game. In fact, I know it wasn't because it lost this game last year. It lost this game against Ole Miss. I think the maturity level with the ebbs and flows and the highs and the lows of this football game is a big reason why Tennessee came out on top.
100%. Some of their veteran players found a way to win this football game. They gutted through it. It wasn't perfect. There was many mistakes that they'll have to correct going forward. But this is a football team that found a way, and I know a lot of Tennessee fans were sitting there in the fourth quarter thinking, "Oh, here we go again. This is going to be just like the Music City Bowl where we lost one in overtime to a team that was down some players that we shouldn't have." And I understand that line of thinking, but this team found a way. They scored. They put it on Cedric Tillman's back. They put it on Hendon Hooker's back. They got it done, and then the defense, brought pressure. Give Tim Banks a lot of credit. The first quarter was a train wreck. They adjusted, and then the second quarter through overtime was really pretty good. I mean, Pitt made some plays. They're going to make some plays. Tennessee's not the Steel Curtain. They're not the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens, but, Tennessee's defense made more plays tonight than, you would have thought if you just said, hey, here's the first quarter snapshot. Now what do you think happened for the rest of the game?
You look at the stats, and we're not going to go through all of them, but, they're almost identical in a number of areas. First downs, 20-21 Pitt. Total offensive yards, 416-415 Tennessee. Total offensive plays, 83-77 Pitt. Very similar numbers, but I think one difference in between Week 1 and Week 2 for Tennessee is Tennessee got after it. We'll talk about the offense and everything, but Tennessee got after the passer, and it was a horrendous first quarter for the most part for this Tennessee defense. But then they put their cleats in the ground and they pinned their ears back or whatever that saying is, and they got after the passer, and they were getting close at times, but still hitting Keaton Slovis. Ultimately knocked him out of the football game, and then when Patty came in, they were hitting him. Finally got home. Wesley Walker got the first sack, but Tennessee was able to accumulate 9 tackles for loss on the game, 4 sacks, and I think they really got after it and made things difficult for Pittsburgh in this football game. And that's great because, again, Ball State, you didn't that wasn't a good look, but that's one of the big questions was, how's this pass rush going to look? And tonight it looked really good.
Yeah, Tyler Barron got home. He's the one that knocked out Keaton Slovis. Byron Young got stronger as the game went along. They still got to be better. They still got to improve in a lot of areas. But again, on the whole, this is a football team that took care of business on the road. Look around college football. Marshall won at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
App State won at Texas A&M. It's hard to win on the road, yet here those teams were getting across the hump, and that's what I told somebody in Tennessee's traveling party going down the elevator to the field. I said, Tennessee fans, the reason they get frustrated is they look around and they see App State go to College Station and win, they see Marshall go to Notre Dame and win, and they can't get across. And here Tennessee was, at the time, struggling to get across the finish line with Pitt. Now, Pitt's a really solid football team.
Yeah.
But, they found a way to get it done, which, cushions everything. They got 2 weeks to get better for Florida, a Florida team that, whether they close it out with Kentucky or not, is a really solid football team. Thin, but still very, very solid.
Yeah, no doubt. You continue to look at some of the highlights of this football game. As we mentioned in the 2-minute drill, Hendon Hooker, was he as accurate as he needed to be? No, he was 27-42. Fourth career game of over 300 yards passing, career high 27 completions, however. And he does move past, yes, it is Jarrett Garantano with the most passes, I think 167, attempted without an interception in Tennessee football history. At the end of the ball game, in the overtime period, when Tennessee needed to make plays, it went to number 5. It went to their guy at quarterback. And ultimately that touchdown got called back because of a holding penalty. But you saw in overtime what they were going to do. They said, hey, Hendon, we need your legs. Go win this football game. But obviously his arm was big. As we mentioned, 18 targets to Cedric Tillman, who came away with 9 receptions, 13 targets to Jalen Hyatt, who had 11 catches, 4 for 4 with Brew McCoy. Hendon, again, was not perfect, but he played a pretty daggone good football game.
Yeah, I agree, and you're supposed to run it through that. Now, speaking of running, I thought Tennessee struggled to run the football. I thought the offensive line really struggled tonight. Gerald Mincy, got the full go at left tackle.
I didn't think it was Darnell Wright's best game.
It was Darnell Wright's best game.
Javonte Spraggins as well.
Spraggins was hit and miss. I thought their best run of the night was when they lined up under center and ran right up the go, Jalen Wright.
Then you fumbled.
And then he fumbled. Just because it was a nice wrinkle because Tennessee never gets under center. But
went under center one time last year, scored a touchdown. I just want to throw that out there.
You need to be able to run the ball more effectively going forward. Tennessee needs its running game to be more effective going forward. A lot of what Tennessee did on the ground tonight was Hendon Hooker.
Yeah. And that's not going to be good enough to win games in the SEC. I thought Jalen Wright ran hard, but obviously once he fumbled, that play we were just talking about, he didn't come back into the football game. Jabari Small, and speaking with some people after the game, looked like he was a little down on himself. I mean, 10 attempts, 18 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. If he's on your fantasy team, you're pleased with his performance, but obviously, not a great showing for Jabari Small in this football game. Tennessee's got to run the football, and so you got to go back to the drawing board, hopefully get some confidence moving in with Akron, but you've got to run the football against Florida in order to win that football game. Now, someone who was good tonight, and I got to tell you, I looked at you and I said, I am shocked that he made that field goal. Chase McGrath. Not taking anything away from him. I think he's solid 35 in, but he converted on a 37 and a 51, and those were obviously big points for Tennessee tonight.
Well, I agree with you. And if you talk to anybody around the program, he struggled mightily in fall camp. Missed a lot of field goals and scrimmages. Really, that thing was really a coin flip up in the air, between he and Toby Wilson, probably 2 scrimmages in. There was that much, uncertainty with McGrath. But, hey, I joked in the press box, he's the Josh Dobbs of kickers. I mean, he not great in practice. He's nailing 51-yarders in games. And, 2 big field goals tonight. He stepped up, and delivered when you needed him to. You had a punt blocked. Tennessee went in thinking they could get home. It ends up being Pitt getting home and blocking a punt. And that really kind of, took some momentum in the second half. Tennessee really squandered the third quarter. After Slovis gets knocked out, they had the third quarter with multiple drives for a chance to go up 14.
That's why I keep saying Tennessee tried so hard to lose this football game.
They did. They dropped a couple of interceptions. I mean, again, I thought Tennessee played their C- game, and they found a way to win. And again, I'm not saying Tennessee doesn't have flaws, because they do. But then they've got to figure some stuff out. But when you look at the grand big picture, Tennessee won with their C- game on the road, in my opinion. I thought, it was very, 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 very average at best.
Against a team that I think we both can agree is a top 25 team.
Well, and it's depleted.
It's not an 8. Yeah, it's depleted.
It's depleted, but at the same time, they've got talent. Mm-hmm. And again, it's hard. It's hard to win. Period. It's hard to win on the road. And Tennessee found a way to get it done.
We'll have plenty on our rewatch. I'll have a rewatch out probably sometime tomorrow.
On a recruiting note, Ryan Wingo, the 5-star 2024 wide receiver from Missouri, was here. He'll be to Knoxville in a couple of weeks. Him getting to see Tennessee throw it around, Cedric Tillman get 18 targets, Jalen Hyatt get 13 targets, and Brew McCoy make a big score. I think that only helps Tennessee's case when you factor in he was here once in the summer. He's going to see Tennessee twice in a matter of weeks during the season. That, to me, helps establish Tennessee as a factor for him long term. You're still going to have to beat out the best of the best in college football for him, but a kid that likes to catch footballs sees Tennessee loves to throw it in the air.
We'll have plenty more notes. I'll have a rewatch coming out tomorrow at some point in time. I know Brent will have one. He'll have 10 things he thinks following the game. He'll have his day after, all that type of stuff. I do want to make note, Aaron Beasley, another phenomenal game. He is stepping up big for Tennessee right now. Thought Amari Thomas played a great football game, but of course, we'll have more notes on that as the weekend progresses. But Tennessee, an overtime win, found a way when it counted to be victorious up here in the second leg of the Johnny Majors Classic. Pittsburgh took the game at Knoxville last year. Tennessee takes the game in Pittsburgh this year, 34-27. The Volunteers moved to 2-0 on the season, and will go back home to play Akron and then Florida coming up in the weeks to pursue. So, for Austin Price, I am Eric Cain. Continue to check the front page of Volquest.com and, of course, the general quarters. If you haven't already, $1 for 1 year on 3. It's been awesome so far, and we'll keep the conversation up over there at Volquest.com as the night goes on.